Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar on digital signatures, the last mile. If you can hear me, please click the raise hand button on your screen. Wonderful, great. There's also a Q&A button on your screen where you can ask your questions, and we can get to those at the end of the presentation. If you think of a question during the webinar, please feel free to fire that off as well too. So my name is Nick Reuter. I'm a research advisor with AMO. By now, I think most of you are familiar with the announcement that AMO is partnering with Solutions Notarius as our preferred provider for a digital signature service. We are pleased to have Mark St. Jacques, VP of Sales and Marketing from Notarius, here to provide you with an overview of the solutions that Notarius is going to offer. So why digital signatures? Mark will go into deeper detail, but in a nutshell, AMO saw this as an opportunity to provide the membership with a highly secure and scalable digital tool that can help with the management of your electronic documents and potentially find you some operational efficiencies as well as some cost savings. So before I turn things over to Mark, I'd like to put in a plug for AMO's Enterprise Center. We are a relatively new section of AMO. We were established in 2016. There are only two of us in the center at the moment, myself and my director, Judy Dizelle. But we do have a number of activities that we are undertaking to create value for the AMO membership. So our work for 2018 includes exploring further digital solutions to improve municipal operations. We are also in the process of writing a report on the feasibility of creating a cooperative with the municipal sector and others that create organic waste to deliver renewable natural gas to pipelines, potentially maybe creating some revenue in the process. And we're also doing some further research into waste management solutions, an aggregated sponsorship solution, and anything else that might pique our interest going forward. So some context for our digital work. Back in June 2016, there was a provincial cabinet shuffle. It created the portfolio of a minister responsible for digital government with the key responsibilities to make government services digital by default, develop a digital government action plan, and hire a chief digital officer. And last March, Hillary Hartley was hired as the new CDO, and her first priority is to make government services more user-friendly and faster. And they're currently right now in the process of working on developing a digital service standard. So late in 2016, as part of our 2017 strategic objectives, AMO formed a digital government task force. And that task force was tasked to write a report on digital transformation and to identify opportunities for municipalities. So in that paper, secure and encrypted digital signatures was seen as a tool that municipalities could use with their electronic document management and perhaps find some efficiencies and cost savings. Back in September, we issued an RFP for a digital signature service and a signing platform that is secure, reliable, and scalable in application to the variety of municipalities across Ontario. And our evaluation team renewed all the proposals, and we determined that Notarius had the strongest submission. So we are starting with a focus on solutions for municipal back office work to help the membership find efficiencies and hopefully some cost savings. We heard from several leaders, including the Chief Digital Officer of Ontario, folks from the Open Data Initiative, that these less exciting back office improvements as an area where digital transformation can truly help local governments. So we'll be focusing on ways to help you immediately with your operations through some of these back office solutions. Much like our LAS services, we will be working closely with Notarius to educate and inform members about this new service, and we will be promoting it wherever possible. We are looking to pilot the program in the first half of 2018, and we will showcase the results of those pilots at the AMO conference in Ottawa this August. We've also heard from members interested in implementing other digital solutions, and we may go to RFP again in the spring to ask the market for platforms that are scalable to Ontario's municipal governments, potentially looking at a CRM solution. So this is me. If you haven't yet, I would encourage everyone to read our digital government report, #OnUniOnline. It's available on our website. It's full of ideas to ponder. If there is a digital opportunity that you think that AMO should consider pursuing, I would encourage you to reach out to me. We are always interested in finding ways to help your administration operations and maybe save you some money in the process. And so with that, I will turn things over to Mark, who will provide an overview of the digital signature service that Notarius will offer. So Mark, you can share your screen.
Perfect. There we go. Well, thank you very much for the introduction and the context. My name is Mark Saint-Jacques. I'll be taking you through sort of what a digital signature is, what they are, how they work, and a bit of background on ourselves. But at least you'll get a better understanding. And I do realize that we've got quite a few people on the call. But if any of you have questions for the second part of this presentation, which includes questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them with Nicholas and his team. So with that said, what I find is often easier is to actually start with what is a signature, because there's a bit of confusion out there as to what a signature is. So if we take it just at its basic notion or definition, well, it's a permanent mark bonded to static documents that are traceable, exclusive, and personal to individuals. This is how we sort of recognize a signature in paper. In an electronic format, we really are talking about two distinct types of signatures. We have what we call an electronic signature, which is what we often refer to when we think of electronic signatures. It's a picture of our identity. It's a visual representation of our identity. However, when we talk about a digital seal or a digital signature, really these are look at this more as a identifying digital certificate that uses cryptography to reinforce the security on a document. So contrary to an image, which is really just a picture, which just has no security related to it on electronic files, a digital signature actually requires, in most cases, the use of a password to be embedded, and also guarantees the integrity of the file. It will actually secure the electronic document. And we'll go through that a little later on. And if you're wondering, are digital signatures legal in Canada and abroad, the answer is yes. There has been a framework at the provincial and federal level that recognized the notion of digital signatures now, or electronic signatures, since the early 2000s. And really what it comes down to the most is trying to evaluate the value of the documents that you have within the municipality. So for an internal letter, an electronic signature, so just an image, may actually meet your need perfectly. However, if you are receiving drawings at the other end of the spectrum, so an official contract or an appraisal or an appraisal review or drawings from an engineer, you likely would want to have a digital signature that has the reinforced cryptography, that has the authenticity associated to the identity of the individual. And somewhere in between here, you've got other types of signatures which are more web-based, which some of you may know, like a DocuSign or a Consigno Cloud, which actually will confirm the identity via a web platform. However, with a digital certificate, so a digital signature from the web-based platform. So really, you have everything from a picture that has no security to a digital certificate that's associated with a platform to a digital signature associated to an individual with a specific role. So the mayor may have an employee signature that confirms that he is an employee of the mayor's office or of the municipality, whereas the taxation department or engineering department may have just a department certificate to actually sign on behalf of a group of people. And that's what we'll try to evaluate as we move forward, is determining, okay, what document needs what higher level of assurance associated to the signing of that document. That being said, we often get asked the question, well, I know what an electronic signature looks like because I've been putting a picture of my signature on a PDF file forever. But what does a digitally signed PDF look like? So here's the example, and it may be a bit small on the screen. However, a digitally signed or a digitally sealed document normally would have these two components. One, the image of the signature, so that if you make printed copies on paper, you would see the image of the person's identity on the copy. However, it also has a digital signature, which on the left-hand side for Adobe has a pen and paper with a squiggly signature that will show you where the digital certificate is, and that's where you'll find the data associated with that individual that owns the digital signature that was used to sign the PDF file. Once you have these two components with the digital signature, it locks the PDF and it cannot be altered without leaving traces or changes that were made to the document afterwards. So try to imagine that a digital signature is not necessarily just an image, but it actually is acting like a sheet of glass on top of the PDF to secure the file. Now, anyone can still mark up the document if necessary, so there was commenting to be made. However, there would be a trace visible of those changes, and you would know that the person had signed for a document in a particular version, but not necessarily agreed to modifications or commenting that may have been put onto the document afterwards. And that is the key component of why we are strong proponents of the use of digital signatures, is for documents that have a high value in terms of long-term archiving and of impact to the municipality. A digital signature is a much safer way of protecting the integrity of those files. Once we look at the actual digital signature itself, we can actually see that it was signed by Mark, and we can see that the signature is valid because there is a way in Adobe and other PDF readers to actually verify that that certificate is still valid, or that digital signature is still valid. And if I go look in the details of that signature, I can actually pull up the entire DNA of that person's identity inside the actual digital signature. So I can know that I know that it was issued by a certificate authority that in this case was Notarius to Mark, who works at Notarius. In your case, it might say your municipality, the employee's name, and the email address with the domain associated to the municipality. And that is how we can guarantee the identity of the individual associated to this digital signature that was embedded in this PDF file. That being said, we often hear, well, what happens if somebody tried to modify it? Because frankly, if I have an electronic signature, there's no way of being able to see the traces of those changes if there were any. However, if it is digitally signed, the message that will appear automatically in Adobe will forewarn you that it has been signed. It doesn't mean the signatures are not valid. It just means that it has been signed. The signature was signed with a real signature. However, there are unsigned changes after the last signature. And if I click on the side tab at this moment, I can actually see what was added. So if you take a look here, I can see that these annotations were created. So I have this box of commenting, this picture, this text was added. But I realized that this was all done after the document was signed by a trusted digital signature. And what's nice is that if I want to remove all these layers, let's say that I had multiple signers and multiple annotations, I said, I just want to see what Mark saw at the moment that he applied his signature, I can actually come over here and click to view this version, and it'll remove all the layers of modifications and give me exactly what Mark saw at the moment that he applied his digital signature on this PDF file. So this is what it looks like, and this is how it's used right now in municipalities from coast to coast and with professionals that use digital signatures, whether they are issued from Notarius or any other third-party certificate authority. But at least it gives you a better understanding of the mechanics behind the use of digital signatures on a PDF file. That being said, what's the reason for changing? Well, the fact is, if you're still printing, signing, and scanning documents, which is often what we hear, there is a cost to that, and there are benefits to actually taking making the switch from printing and scanning to fully digital. So we realize that this is a bit of an outdated approach, but we're used to it. It's what we know. However, the challenge that we have here is that it is expensive, both to print. There's a lot more manipulation. It is very time consuming to scan. The scans, once they are scanned, are usually of lower quality in terms of visual image, and these files are usually much bigger than if they had just been natively produced as PDF files from a Word document or what other document you're using. And what's interesting is that at a municipal level, what we're encountering often is the motivation to go paperless is often because, well, there's no more room for storage. So we've run out of space in the basement to actually put another box, and now we need to find a solution. And if that is your motivation, then we're happy to help. But really, if you look at the overall big picture of what's involved in maintaining two sets of documents, papers that are scanned, and then managing those scanned documents, there is a clear benefit, and the ROI is pretty simple and very quick to demonstrate. So if we take a look at just very quickly and briefly wet signature versus digital signature, you'll see that when it comes to, we sort of did this mapping here to demonstrate sort of the effort level or the cost associated to the effort of producing a paper document versus a digital document. So printing to paper is an extremely time-consuming exercise at every level. However, if we take just the act of signing itself, I would say that that is about the only one where it takes about as much time to put in a 6-digit password than it does to actually put ink on paper. So that would be about equal. But otherwise, you're often looking at a 3 to, if you take it into consideration, the cost of scanning, the mailing and couriering of documents, the storage facilities, and then the time and labor just of maintaining all this service together. It usually is about a 3-to-1 ratio in terms of cost benefits of digital signatures, and this is even on low volume. The fact is that if you are producing on a large scale thousands of documents, this ratio is actually closer to 8-to-1 and 10-to-1, and that's usually what we see with our customers that use digital signatures. And most of them that do try it out will keep it afterwards. In our case, our renewal rate for the services that we provide is at about 91-92%. So if you factor in the cost of the cost of just the reality of having people retire and then change jobs and all that, it really is, once you try this, you'll never want to go back to actually printing, signing, and scanning. We haven't encountered that too often. So for those of you also who may be wondering, well, why Notarius or who we are, well, essentially, before I get started on sort of who we are, maybe just highlight the fact that in our case, we are big proponents of 4 basic principles related to official documents that we produce. One is we want to make sure that anything that is produced as an electronic original or that's authenticated as an electronic original should be able to demonstrate a person's identity and in certain cases their employment status or their professional status. So that is a key driver behind everything we do, whether it be with our online platforms or whether it be with our digital signatures. The other one that we need to focus on is we want to guarantee the integrity of the files that we sign. So pretty much any solution that we provide will guarantee the integrity of the document, and that is a key critical component, and one of the reasons we've seen municipalities not always being at the forefront of wanting to switch from paper to electronic, because they don't trust the integrity of the electronic file. There's a sense that it can always be manipulated or altered, and that is where we strive to provide solutions that can guarantee that integrity and meet the legal reliability concerns that they may have. The third component is the sort of the flip side of identity. So on the one hand, we go through a vetting process to prove your identity. So anybody that has a digital signature from us, let's say through just a regular digital signature, would actually have to present 2 pieces of government issued ID through a video-based identity verification session with one of our agents. And we do guarantee that whoever we issue a digital identity to or a digital signature is truly the person they claim to be, and that we've done everything in our policies and processes to ensure that that person truly is who they claim to be, which is extremely important if you're signing highly legally reliable documents. The flip side to that we talked about is authenticity. So pretty much every solution that we provide actually has to have two factors of authentication, either the certificate from a digital signature with a password, so it is password protected, or even on our online platforms, there's always either an email and a text message, or an email and a shared secret that are used. So authenticity is key, because you may be able to prove who you are, but we need to know that it really is you that authorized or authenticated a document. And lastly, from an archiving perspective, we do believe that every document that is produced using our services should be able to stand the test of time. And using the ISO standards out there that provide archive quality PDFs, we are invested heavily in making sure that you have access to tools that are that meet the highest standards of the PDFA standard. Right now we're at PDFA 3. So we do provide those tools to have an archive quality PDF and all of the matching signature components, matching qualities associated to a signature to meet those needs. So at the end of the day, we need to make sure that the technology that is used will stand the test of time, and that it not be necessarily audit based. So our goal is to actually integrate the proof inside every type of document that we are producing, in this case PDF files. I've seen a few questions. Nicholas, I don't know if you want to take the questions now, or do we want to wait a little longer?
I think we can wait until the end of your presentation, Mark, and then we'll get to those questions. Okay.
Sounds great. Okay. I've got maybe another 10 minutes there, and we'll be able to start answering questions.
Great, thank you.
So, based off of that, just so you know, we were originally created in '96 by the Quebec Board of Notaries, and our first mandate was to put together a government-grade certificate authority to allow notaries and land surveyors the ability to produce land titles documents that would be submitted to the Electronic Land Titles Registry. So this was a major initiative on our part, and it took us 2 years to put together a government-grade certificate authority and provide that service, and have been doing so now for the last 20 years. However, once we did that, we also had engineers that said, well, we'd like to do the same thing. And then we had other provincial jurisdictions come in and offer to ask us to help them with their issuance of trusted digital identities to their members. And today, we now service about 30 associations from coast to coast, which is varied from about 12 different professions. In parallel to that, we were asked to produce actually software to go along with it. So what's a bit different in our story is that we don't just provide digital signatures, but we actually provide all the software or web-based solutions that go to use them. And that is why in '98 we had Certifio for Professionals. That was our digital signature service. And then we produced Consigno Desktop, which is a free signing software, a bit like Adobe PDF. And then later on, we had individuals saying, well, I need to have a tool to be able to use the same signing features of Consigno, but for my own software, third-party software, or web-based solutions. And then we had government agencies like Transport Quebec and Manitoba Hydro and things, organizations of that provincial nature, call on us to say, well, now we're getting 250,000 documents per year. How do I get to verify in an automated fashion that these are from a trusted certificate authority, yours, and that they do have the designation, the professional designation to submit to our platforms? And that is how Verifio came about. And the last component, which is also the one I think will interest you the most in your day-to-day operations, is Consigno Cloud, which is our web-based solution that allows you to use your employee or professional signatures, and also gather signatures from citizens, suppliers, third-party vendors that you need to get a contract signed or an NDA, and they don't necessarily have a digital signature. So we've now launched this Consigno Cloud, which allows you to create projects and gather signatures from people that may not necessarily have a digital signature per se. So along with that, we've spent a lot of time and effort. This is a highly regulated environment for us to be recognized by the government of BC and well, all the various provincial governments. It is extremely important that we maintain these levels of certification. So we are ISO 9001, 27001. We were the first ones in 2007 to meet that standard, which is a cybersecurity standard. And we are also the only Canadian Adobe approved trust list member, one of about 20 in the world. So we are pretty excited about these first. And what you haven't seen here in 2018 is that we are actually going to be very shortly recognized by European standards, which is the standard called EIDAS. So we will actually become the first certificate authority outside of Europe to have European standard compliancy on the issuance of digital identities. And the reason I bring it up is that in Europe, the use of digital signature has been around at the municipal, provincial, and federal level for a long time, and it is the highest standard essentially out there right now in terms of what to comply with. If you're complying with EIDAS, you're meeting pretty much the requirements of the world. So we're pretty excited about that, and that'll be announced probably in the next month and a half officially. So overall, this gives you a quick overview of where we are from coast to coast. So really, we provide digital signatures for engineers, architects, land surveyors, appraisers, geologists, archivists, and so on and so forth, technologists and so on. So we're pretty excited about the work that we do with all these various associations. And what this translates to in terms of our presence, well, we are very much involved with the utilities on the energy side that are large consumers of official documents. We work closely also with municipalities that are the consumers of these documents. So, for example, in the case of the city of Vancouver, it took a long time for them to start accepting digitally submitted documents. So it's to work with the city on the one hand to start accepting the reception of documents. On the other, they have their own team of engineers and architects and professionals that need to produce documents, and that is sort of the two-phase approach that we see in most municipalities in terms of getting a rollout of digital signatures to those municipalities. So usually start with internal consumption, then move on to receiving from external sources. And we work with both sides of that equation, whether it be an SNC Lavalin with the City of Montreal. We'll work on with both parties to help them, one, prepare the documents, two, to receive and accept them. So that gives you sort of a brief overview of where we're involved in with our customers. And really our products break down into three components. When I talk about Certifio, I'm really talking about a digital identity. When I talk about Consigno, I'm talking about productivity, so whether it be desktop, so software-based, or web-based through Consigno Cloud. And then for larger municipalities that may have a need to batch verify these documents, Verifio is the tool that allows you to do that automated verification of PDFA standard, digital signature standards, and so on. So this is sort of how all of this breaks down in terms of the various products. And I know this may seem a bit overwhelming. They all fit a different need and they all accomplish a different task, but it gives you an idea of how this could actually work. Certifio for Employees is likely the one that you would use the most for the digital identities. However, the cloud version has the nice benefit that it bridges between the employee and a customer who may use it. And of course, organization would be something that you would use more to represent the municipality. So let's say you're issuing certificates, permits. So if you were issuing permits and you want to guarantee that that permit was officially signed by the municipality, Certifio for Organizations could be a solution. So that gives you sort of a quick overview, but I'll take you through a workflow, and that'll be a lot easier to digest these products and see how they work together. So based off of that, try to imagine that step one, you have internal staff that may be preparing files, and these may be Word documents, they may be reports, they may be DW AutoCAD drawings, whatnot. So a technician would use either their own tools and convert it to PDFA. In our scenario here, we're taking the idea that they would have Consigno Desktop, which is free for the technicians, and they would actually convert to PDFA whatever file they've got and apply a department certificate saying, we technicians confirm the integrity of this file and that it's all good. Afterwards, a professional, whether it be an engineer, an architect, an appraiser, could actually go in and verify the document, and either using Adobe or Bluebeam along with their Certifio for Professionals or Certifio for Employee digital signature could go ahead and digitally sign the PDF. Once that is done, they could submit it to the executive within the municipality, let's say, for example, at the last level of authentication. And they, of course, with Consigno Desktop, again, either with Certifio for Employees or the web-based Consigno Cloud, can actually digitally sign it. The end result is that all throughout this exercise of converting from Word to PDF, you have trusted digital signatures at every step of the way, whether they were provided through Consigno Cloud or to an employee or to a department. What it ends up looking like, I'll show you in a second. Before I do that, I want to at least show you the second scenario, which is the one I expect you'll likely be doing most often, which is using our Consigno Cloud solution. Now, in the case of Consigno Cloud, you're looking at having a project manager, so somebody internally go onto the cloud solution, upload the PDF that needs to be signed, and choose to request a signature from, let's say, 2 individuals. So the executive outside third-party firm that has a contract to sign, and the official at the municipality that have to countersign this document to conclude that transaction. Well, once this has been, this project has been initiated by the project manager, the end result is that you've got a PDF that has a signature from Mark, the third-party outside vendor, and Bob Allison, the official municipal employee. And I can see here that what it looks like in terms of the end result of a PDF is that it is a PDFA. So you've got an archive quality PDF, and you have the signatures, the electronic signatures of Bob Allison and Mark. And on the left-hand side, I have the fact that it was signed by through the platform by Consigno Cloud. But if you look at the reason here, you can see that it was signed and approved by Bob. This was the email address that was used. This is the phone number that we sent the text message to. It is a Canadian-based solution, so everything we do is designed to live in Canada only. So we do meet that criteria. And at this point now, you've got an official contract that was duly signed using an electronic, a trusted electronic digital signature, and that you don't have to print, sign, scan, ship, print, and mail. So this is what the document sort of looks like at the end of the exercise. So this is a very quick overview of what digital signatures are. I know it's a lot of information to digest in a very short amount of time. We remain available to answer questions or to help with any other deployment exercise you'd want to look at later down the road, but at least with this brief overview, I think you've now got a better understanding of what electronic signatures are, what digital signatures are, and there are tools out there that can meet every single need you likely have for authentication of electronic documents.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark, for that overview. We got a series of questions here from participants. So we'll get right into it. First question, can digital signatures be integrated into a meeting management solution, for example, like an electronic agenda?
Yes, they could, depending on what the requirements are for what we're trying to accomplish in terms of what's the end output document that you're managing in the software. But we do have an API to do it. It is not automatically integrated, but if the end goal is to actually sign a PDF that was produced from this software application, then the answer is yes, it can be done.
Does this require the purchase of Adobe Acrobat Pro?
Very good question, and I keep forgetting to specify it. No, The key point here is that when we started to provide the service of issuing digital signatures, one of our partners actually said we had to provide a signing software with it. So right now, the digital signatures do come with Consigno Desktop, which is not as feature-rich as Pro, but is more than capable of meeting your signing needs. So there is absolutely no reason to buy Adobe Pro with if you are going to be using digital signatures. And to be fully transparent, even if you want to sign, you could also use your digital signatures with the free Adobe Reader to be able to digitally sign documents using our digital signatures. So the only reason you would get Adobe Pro today would be to because you're looking for the markup features and the editing features and stuff that is specific to Adobe Pro, but for signing, you definitely do not need to buy a license to do that.
So where does Notarius store the digital signature information?
That's a big question. So there are two parts to this. The actual digital signature is actually issued to the individual. So the certificate is actually generated by the person when they activate the service. So the actual digital certificate is an actual file that resides on a workstation of the subscriber. As far as where we store the certificate authority, without going into too much details, it is all secured in Canada in cloud-based environments that are government grade. We have to remember that the data that we store is used to sign documents that are submitted to the Land Titles Registry in Quebec and Alberta, for hydro dams in Manitoba and BC, and we definitely cannot. We need to have about as secure as an environment as we can, because we are about one of the few certificate authorities recognized by provincial jurisdictions. I hope that answers the question. I can't go into more details, unfortunately. I hope that answers it, though.
Question, has there ever been a circumstance where a document has been altered with the alteration not being noticed, at least at first?
Never. Never, and I want to be clear on the never part. The cryptography that's used to apply a digital signature on a PDF file to secure it is essentially the basic framework that is comparable to what's being done in the banking system. The moment that is hacked or cracked, you likely have more concerns about having money in your bank account than you would related to your drawings or documents that you've signed. So really there is no breach. Never been either.
Does this have any applicability to documents that residents need to sign to access a municipal or provincial benefit? For example, the Ontario Works benefit.
That would be more of a tricky question. The reason I say tricky is that, unfortunately, although digital signatures are legally recognized, not all government agencies approve the use or reception of digitally signed documents. And unfortunately, I know this may not be the answer you were looking for, but it is almost a case-by-case basis. The one example I have, and it's a bad one, unfortunately, is so I have a provincial environment agency which requires paper documents that actually refuse electronic originals. Now this is a Ministry of Environment for one of our 10 provinces. So you can see that there's a bit of a disconnect between their role and the submittal of electronic files. But to your question, it really depends on the agency, because I have seen, unfortunately, both sides of the coin. Some that will accept it, and some that don't. So we need to make sure that we verify that before just blindly submitting to the document with a digital signature. But to be fair, and I'll wrap up on that long answer, they are legally reliable. but they may not be legal. They may not be accepted by all agencies, and that is the reality of provincial and federal jurisdictions and agencies that provide that service or need those types of documents.
Okay, next question. Does the signature integrate with the existing ECM programs such as Laserfiche?
As far as Laserfiche is concerned, right now a digital signature is generally used to sign PDF files. So I can't speak to Laserfiche specifically, and as I mentioned, we do have tools to be able to integrate the application of digital signatures in third-party software like a Laserfiche. However, if the end output is not a PDF, I would highly recommend it be converted to PDF and then digitally signed. So I guess my question would be, is the Laserfiche final document a PDF, or is it a Laserfiche extension .lsf or whatever a Laserfiche extension would be on an electronic document? Sorry, I can't be more precise.
Next question, can you explain how we can digitally sign a paper invoice that comes in which requires an invoice and account number? That's the majority of documents that we need are.
All right. Well, in both cases, either using Consigno Cloud or Certifio digital signatures. In the case of Certifio digital signatures, you do have the ability to add extra information when signing. So that could be either a reason or custom text or a date. So all that information can be added to when receiving an invoice. So at the moment of signature, you could type in the contract number, the reason, and so on. In the case of Consigno Cloud, although I didn't show it in my example, Consigno Cloud does have the ability to add text boxes. So it is possible, even in Consigno Cloud, our web-based version, to actually receive the invoice and add a zone for a signature and add another zone for freehand text, which could be an invoice number, a contract number, or any other type of number. So really, I think what it comes down to is, depending on the volume that you have to sign, one might be better than the other, but in both cases it can be done to add extra information at the moment of signing.
Okay, I think I can answer the next two questions. The first one, did you mention that a report on digital signatures is available on the IMO website? It's there, Claire. You can try a search for digital transformation. You might get a few hits there. If not, please reach out to me and I can send you a PDF copy of that report. The next question, what Ontario municipalities are involved in the pilot program? That's still going to be determined at this time. So we're looking at a few right now, but it's still TBD. We're not ready to make an announcement quite yet. Next question. Are there examples of municipalities using digital signatures for high-level contract workflows? For example, clerk mayor digitally sign a bylaw attached to a contract that is digitally signed by an organization/vendor.
Yeah, if I take, so it really varies from one municipality to another, but so the use case you're describing is something that is done with the municipality of Victoriaville in Quebec as an example, where they use it for their bylaws and minutes and resolutions. In the case of the city of Montreal, there are over 140 digital signatures issued to land surveyors and engineers and various departments that have to sign official documents and contracts. So in that regards, most municipalities, well, most in Quebec have used digital signatures now for the last a little under a decade, maybe 6-7 years now. And the reason for that, just to give you an idea of historical background, following the Charbonneau case, essentially all municipalities have a requirement to actually submit through the online bid system projects over $25,000, which meant that pretty much anything over $25,000 had to be submitted electronically. And if it had to be submitted electronically, engineers and other professions had to submit them with digital signatures, both for submittal and for production of work. So it is a fairly common practice, maybe not necessarily in Ontario yet, and that's why we're happy to work with AMO to make that a reality, but it is used quite a bit, both cloud and the certificate of signature solutions.
And just supplemental to that, Mark, those are municipalities in Quebec of all different types and sizes, right? From Montreal down to the smaller rural, correct?
Absolutely. Essentially, anybody doing a project over $25,000, if we're talking about engineering specifically, I know the $25,000 for engineering is pretty low. So it is all done with digital signatures. As far as signing bylaws or resolutions, that is starting now. So we're seeing a lot more interest, and I can definitely claim that those that do start using Consigno Cloud to do it are pretty excited about it. We have not had a lot of negative feedback. They see the bad. It's made their life a lot easier.
What is the cost of the solutions?
That is a good question. So cost will vary, but in a nutshell, you're looking at a Consigno Cloud solution. So a single subscription, you're looking at essentially $200 per year to do about 50 projects per month, so 600 projects per year. So that is for Consigno Cloud, single subscription, fairly straightforward. We do also have an enterprise solution and a business solution of Consigno Cloud, and that will vary either on a cost per user or a cost per document. But so to give you an idea, an enterprise version of Consigno Cloud where you can white label and customize completely, you're looking at anywhere between $3 a document down to 60 cents a document, depending on the volume. And at this point, you have unlimited users. In our business solution of Consigno Cloud, you're talking about $40 per user, but unlimited number of documents. So we've really done the basic individual, and then the business solution of a higher cost per subscription, but unlimited documents, and then the other option, which is a cost per document, but unlimited amount of users within the account. So those are those scenarios. And on the digital signature side, you're looking at about $185 per year per signature, with a sign-up fee of $140 that's paid once. So that, and of course, this is all unit pricing that I'm giving you for Certifio. If you're looking at a larger deployment, there is a way to get those costs down depending on how many digital signatures you need or how we package a program for you.
Thanks. Next question, can the workflow be integrated with other case management tools in SharePoint or Salesforce?
Yes, but it's all custom work at this point. So we do have the APIs. It is not extremely difficult, but there's still an effort to be done. We don't have an official SharePoint plugin at this moment. We are working on it, on having something a bit more productized, we'll call it. But at this point, if there was a need to integrate with SharePoint or Salesforce, we do have the tools to do it. We just need to sit down and get it done with the firm or the municipality.
How does the signature authenticate members of the public, i.e. residents?
So for residents, you would be looking at Consigno Cloud, and Consigno Cloud would actually, you as a municipality would know their email address, would have validated their email address, and every signer that, let's say, is a citizen, has to have two factors to be able to authenticate the electronic document. So it'd be their email as the first factor, and then the second factor is still to the choice of the municipality. Either it's a text message or it's a shared secret. So if you were to say with your citizens that you want a document signed, but they didn't have a smartphone or they didn't have the ability to receive a text message or even take a code through a regular landline. They could do a shared secret, and that would be something that would be determined between the project manager and the citizen. So it's either with a text message off a cell phone and an email, or a shared secret and an email. But it is always two factors to prove the identity of a citizen, which is pretty much what you do for an Interact transaction right now, and that is how we based our thought process in having multi-factor authentication as being a high enough level of assurance to be able to digitally sign a transaction electronically.
Thanks, Mark. Next question, is this solution efficient without a document management solution in place?
Absolutely. That's a good point, and probably one that's important to state that we do have organizations that may have hundreds of digital signatures and do not have any document management system. They just have file folders and a structure in place to be able to manage these files. So having a document management system is great because it brings in a higher level of efficiency, but it is definitely not required. And I would say most of our customers, even our large customers, do not have a document management system. And we're talking about hundreds of digital signatures here. So I definitely would not see that as a showstopper to going digital.
All right, next question. A lot of good questions here. What is the difference between a digital signature and trusted digital signature?
Okay, so a trusted digital signature and a trusted electronic signature or a digital signature is, if you saw my example for Consigno Cloud, that would be a trusted electronic signature. It is trusted in the sense that the digital signature was issued from a platform and claims to be from Consigno Cloud, whereas a digital signature would be specific to an individual that would have had their identity verified with 2 pieces of government-issued ID and a video proofing session. So, although I know the word trust sounds pretty more trustworthy, a trusted electronic signature is really what you would do in Consigno Cloud. A digital signature is what you would do with Certifio, and an electronic signature is just a picture, and you should not do that anymore with official documents.
Okay, next question, are digital signatures only used to sign PDF documents?
Aha, that's another good one. I would say so the short answer is you should ideally be signing PDF files for anything that you want to keep for long-term archiving. That being said, a digital signature is a standard in the industry as far as how you produce that type of certificate, and thus it can be used in Word if you wanted to, can be used in Excel, can be used in Outlook to sign emails. It'll all work. However, for long-term archiving, we highly recommend that whatever file format you are in, convert it to PDF. PDF was designed to stand the test of time and to be a long-term format. It is what we call open source. It doesn't belong to any corporation, though, even though Adobe is often linked to the PDF format, and rightfully so. They're the ones that created the format and then released the source code to make it available to everyone. So I would say besides signing emails with Outlook, I would definitely use your digital signature to sign PDF files more so than other file formats. But it will work in many instances, like Word and Excel, but it's cumbersome and it doesn't really work that well, so it's not ideal.
Thanks, Mark. So we got about 5 minutes left for questions. Keep them coming. They've been great. Next question. Can a document be signed via a mobile device like an iPad or only on a desktop or a laptop?
So the answer is a bit of A and a bit of B. So for Certifio, digital signatures can be signed using a Windows Surface tablet or in Windows or in a Mac environment, not a problem. However, for iPads, mobile phones, Android or iOS, you could sign with Consigno Cloud with trusted electronic signatures. However, not with a digital signature, and this isn't something that's common to that's only a Notarius digital signature. iOS and Android do not play well with digital signatures, so unfortunately, an actual digital signature certificate, it cannot be used to sign with an iPad. However, Consigno Cloud does work with an iPad, and it does allow for trusted electronic signatures to be applied on a phone or an iPad. And that's why when looking at what you're trying to accomplish, maybe Consigno Cloud is a better solution if you want to make sure that your counselors can actually sign with their phone or sign on an iPad. At that point, then you're looking at using Consigno Cloud with trusted electronic signatures as opposed to employee digital signatures. So food for thought, but that is pretty much the reality on both sides of what you can do with or without, what you can do with an iPad and what you can do with a Windows or a Mac environment.
Clarification question, is the $185 per signature a per year charge?
Yes, the $185 is a per year charge because it does allow the municipality to deploy Consigno Desktop on as many workstations as you want. It does include maintenance, it does include updates, upgrades, and anything that we do throughout the year. So it is $185 per year.
So a comment, this is a great tool for accessibility for those who work electronically only. Have you received any sort of certifications from the AODA, which is the, I think it's the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act? Is there an equivalent in Quebec or elsewhere that you've got a standard for there, Mark, in terms of accessibility?
Up to now, so I have done some tests to verify the use of digital signatures. So I have not had, we have not had certification from the Ontario Accessibility Group, but I have done the exercise of creating an accessible document through a PDF and verifying that if you did convert it to PDFA, that it would still maintain those standards, at least the standards of accessibility, and it does work. I hope we're talking about the same thing here. I think we are. And digital signatures can be applied onto that afterwards. So that should not be a concern for the accessibility concerns or standards that are in place that we need to meet for official documents. But it is something I'd like to look into a bit more closely because I do realize that this is an important issue for you in Ontario and one that I have not dealt more so than what I just described.
Thanks. Next question, how do the signatures work on documents that require a sworn affidavit?
At this point, a sworn affidavit is unfortunately still required to be on paper in a face-to-face session with a legal representative, I'll call it that way. So for an affidavit, I would say that for the time being, it is still paper-based. I'd like them to use a digital signature, but I could not say that it would be recognized or approved in any way, shape, or form. And I'm definitely not a lawyer either, so I can't confirm that.
Okay, final question.
For that type of document, I would continue doing them paper. That would be my response.
Final question so far right now. Is there any case law dealing with the authenticity and integrity of digital signatures in Ontario regarding the admissibility of these documents, I guess, in court?
To the best of my knowledge, no, but I could find out a bit more if we have the exact person, but there aren't a lot of cases that go to court when it comes to digital signatures. Most of these cases actually never make it to court. So that's just a reality because of the nature of digital signatures, and they're fairly black and white. This usually gets resolved before making it to court. But if you want, I can take that question offline and maybe look at it a bit more closely with our legal department, and I can get back to you with either cases or stories on that side.
Great, thanks. Okay, so seeing that there are no further questions, I think we can end the webinar. Thank you, Mark, and thanks to everyone that listened in. We have recorded this webinar, and we will make it available on the AMO website in the coming days, so stay tuned for that. I got a question here. Can I post my contact information again? Yes, Andrew, just give me 1 second. If you are interested in getting started with Notarius Solutions before the results of the pilots that we're doing, or if you require further information, please reach out to either Mark or myself. And that concludes our webinar. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day. And I will put my contact details up again for folks that would like to see that. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.